Hello folks, in today's guide we are taking a deep dive into Khazan and seeing what the limitations are for the random attributes. Now, I had originally prepared for this video prior to the recent patch, and with this update came the introduction of being able to see current random attribute parameters. That was the main focus of this video prior to the update, and thus I have had to adjust the focus quite a bit. I have, however, learned a lot during my endeavors, and due to a slight miscalculation on just how Khazan works, I actually ended up losing level 110 and setting myself back to level 90 something instead. This was due to thinking I could just reset my level, do a bunch of re-rolling at Khazan, and then quit the game to reload and then get all of my Lacrima back. However, this simply isn't the case, so we will have a 2-second silence for the 15 or so levels that we'll never see again. Anyway, we'll get straight into the discoveries made. Firstly, gear rarity does not affect attribute reroll cost. Instead, only gear level does. Additionally, each upgrade costs 10% more than the last. At level 1, the first upgrade is 80, the second at 88, and then so on. Gear level will dictate its parameters quite a bit. What I mean by this is a level 1 weapon can theoretically only obtain up to an additional 40 maximum stamina. However, a much higher level weapon would be able to obtain an attribute of more than 40 max stamina. I looked further into this, and despite not having reached a cap myself, gear level does cap out at gear level 350, and thus this would suggest that the random attributes would cap out on their potential, and those would be the absolute numbers to base endgame builds off. We obviously can't view them here, but knowing this does tell us quite a bit, such as for anyone progressing through Khazan and not intending on capping their character level in any way, then for the most part you do not need to worry about min-maxing until much later on in the game. Wasting time and most importantly resources on min-maxing an armor set at say level 200 would theoretically make that armor set obsolete once having progressed further into the game. Of course, gear can be modified and brought back up to scratch to some extent, but for the most part you would be far better off just crafting a new set at a much higher level and re-rolling the attributes from fresh. Additionally, when progressing through Khazan, you'd be best to just aim for the high end of whatever attribute you'd like and settling for the best you get for the cheapest option, such as if I wanted maximum stamina on a gear piece and I could see the min-max parameters are between 37 and 47, then I'd most likely be happy with anything at 44 and upwards, so as to not waste too much Lacrima on an armor set I'll eventually stop using. With the addition of being able to see these parameters, it certainly makes crafting a build a whole lot easier to put together, but just bear in mind that the caps will scale with level, and it won't be until level 350 that the real min-max begins. That's it for this guide, folks. I know it's been somewhat brief, but I had a lot of other research fleshed out that simply doesn't matter anymore, and I didn't want to waste the information I had or my own endeavors into this topic prior to the update. I doubt I'll reach 350 prior to anyone touching on this deeper than I just have. However, I may revisit this if and when. Regardless, I do have a range of guides on my channel, so do feel free to stop on by and check things out. Otherwise, thanks for watching, folks, and until next time, peace.